The problem with almost any extremely popular TV show is that at some point or other, everyone wants a slice of that hype pie. This can manifest itself in positive ways or very negative ways, as we've seen with the recent season of Game of Thrones. As well as all the channels on YouTube that are utterly desperate to draw traffic to their channel by covering something popular, me included I suppose, places like GameSpot have started to cover Game of Thrones. I mean, GameSpot can't even cover games well. How are they going to cover Game of Thrones? Anyway, I'm sure we've all by now seen at least one video or article that claims to point out all the little flaws in the episodes, or maybe says the characterization is bad or the writing has gone downhill this season. And on the face of it, you agree with those points. You think, yeah, actually, that was pretty bad there. But then if you actually start to use your brain a little bit, you realise that a lot of these incredibly nitpicky points can be answered fairly simply. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do in this video. First off, let's get this out of the way. Yes, The Long Night was a pretty bad episode for Game of Thrones standards. The military tactics employed in that episode made no sense whatsoever. It felt like the characters had been making these plans for so long and saying things like Winterfell can be defended against however many people, but then they didn't even utilise Winterfell itself. They put most of the troops outside of the walls and they charged headfirst into basically certain death. It also felt throughout the series that the passing on of the Valyrian steel swords had a bit of weight behind it every time it happened. And the fact that none of the characters used their Valyrian steel swords to defeat any of the White Walkers at any time was a real downer for me, really. What people seem to be focusing on mainly, however, is the whole idea of the prophecy, more specifically the prince that was promised. People are just like, oh, well, who was the prince that was promised? You know, people thought Jon Snow was going to defeat the Night King or something along those lines. The answer to that is, just because there's a prophecy in the show that characters in the show believe is going to come true, doesn't mean that you as a viewer should expect that prophecy to come true. That's not bad writing, that's good writing, because then the characters in the show can realise that they were wrong, or maybe think that the prophecy meant something different, which is what Melisandre has been doing throughout the entire show, really. She believed that she had a purpose to fulfill, and as long as she kept moving on to the next person and believing they were the prince that was promised, eventually she was bound to be right, wasn't she, basically? It was a self-fulfilling prophecy for her.
And there's no prophecy, there's rocks, unless her younger brother was a rock.
On the same lines, just because something is foreshadowed throughout a series doesn't mean that that thing is going to happen either. Imagine what an arduous task it would be and how long the series would have to be if every single thing that was foreshadowed had to come true at some point. In the very first season, I'm sure many of you remember, it was foreshadowed that Ned Stark would have to take up the Iron Throne because he was the only one fit for the job, really. It was foreshadowed in the marketing material and throughout little plot threads here and there. Guess what happened there?
Varys betraying Dany's, I never agreed with,
Just because a character does something that you personally don't agree with, or it doesn't match up to your internalized version of that character, doesn't mean it's bad writing. Daenerys chose to fly back to Dragonstone, and she got attacked as a consequence of that. It was a really dumb decision, yeah, the Iron Fleet was still out and about in the ocean, but here's a very plausible explanation for that. After the battle with the Night King, the characters are incredibly physically and mentally drained, and a lot of them have one more thing to contend with, and that's who the hell is going to ascend to the Iron Throne now. They're so focused on that new piece of information that I believe Dany's mind was clouded, Tyrion's mind was clouded, Varys' mind was clouded, Jon's mind was clouded, all based on that simple fact, but earth-shattering fact, that Jon is actually the true heir to the Iron Throne. Dany wasn't thinking, oh shit, I better watch out for the Iron Fleet. She was thinking, right, I need to take these people down right now as soon as possible and show my strength, basically.
They have like 100 ships firing scorpions, and none of them can fucking hit Drogo. That makes no fucking sense.
So the dragon gets shot by a scorpion, it dies, and people are complaining that the scorpion managed to kill the dragon in one scene, and then in episode 5, Dany attacks the Iron Fleet and doesn't get hit by a scorpion. And they're saying, well, why would the scorpion work in one situation but not the other? These two situations are the same. Well, are these two situations the same? On one hand, they are, yeah. On one hand, they're the same. On the other hand, they're both completely different. I'll tell you how they're the same. They're both surprise attacks. And is it the same person doing the surprising on both times? No, it's two different people. The first time, the Iron Fleet surprises Dany, and they win. The second time, the dragon surprises the Iron Fleet, and the dragon wins. So when people are saying, oh, the Scorpions were well good in episode 4, and they were just naff in episode 5, what happened? There's no explanation for it at all, what happened? There is an explanation for it. You just think about it a bit, and realise that the two situations are not the same. We've also got to consider that in episode 5, this is literally all or nothing for Daenerys. It's plausible that the characters couldn't think of any other way to win this battle than to have the dragon attack from behind in the way it did. It's a desperate and risky plan, but in the end, it paid off.
And it just so happened that Euron jumped off his boat at the last minute before his fleet got destroyed by one fucking dragon. And it's fucking stupid, because I think Euron would be like, peace out, I fucked your wife.
Now let me ask you, why did the scorpion bolt hit the dragon that Dany wasn't riding? Surely the target would have been Dany. They could have ended the war right there if they'd have just shot the dragon with Dany on it. Was it bad writing? Or was this dragon not only closer, but literally fucking in front of the other one?
I will give the episode a whole point if he pats.
Not just 10 out of 10. He pet the puppy.
Not having Jon stroke Ghost or boop his nose to say goodbye is not bad writing. You see, there's this thing called acting, which if you're a good enough actor, you can actually do with your face. Kit Harington is a good actor, so the writers decided to have him convey this very emotional scene through the means that they did. It's not like Jon didn't give a shit about Ghost like a lot of people are saying. People are just being like, oh, he didn't give a crap about Ghost, he just left without even stroking him. No, he's literally devastated. He can't bring himself to go up and stroke him because he knows he'll just break down if he does. He knows that if he goes with Tormund, Ghost will have a better life because he belongs in the north. Daenerys becoming the Mad Queen has been criticised as being unbelievable and forced. On the contrary, this element has been built up from the very beginning of the show. Daenerys has literally lost everything she's ever loved. And the only thing keeping her going, the only thing that's ever kept her going, is knowing that she is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. That is what she's always strived for and sacrificed so much for, to be on the Iron Throne. Well, guess what? She's just discovered that she's not the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. The one thing that was keeping her together has been shattered, completely shattered. And you're going to tell me that her descent into madness was sudden and forced? Give me a break.
And for no fucking reason other than bells ringing, she goes mad. It makes no sense.
Dany did not go mad because of bells ringing. I seriously don't know how people are so confused over this. The bells were ringing, yeah, but that doesn't mean that the bells caused Dany to go mad just because the bells were ringing at the same time as that happened. The bells signified a time where Dany had to make a decision. Does she accept the surrender, or does she take out her anger on the people of King's Landing? Her anger, which, as we've discussed, has been built up over seasons and seasons worth of the show. And even though I actually expected her to go mad pretty much in the way that she did, I thought the way the show handled it was actually really shocking. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but they kind of upped the gore, like when the slaughter started happening. It was really subtle, but you can tell that they really thought, okay, this is going to have to be brutal as hell. And it was genuinely shocking to me, even though I expected the outcome.
It's also supposed to be winter in King's Landing. It's supposed to be snowing.
Why would Bronn go to the trouble of saving Jaime and Tyrion so many times if they're not friends, and he's just going to betray them for money in the end? The answer? They're not friends. Do you really think that if Bronn let Jaime or Tyrion die any of those times that he could have done, that Cersei would hold up the deal that he had with them? I don't think so. Bronn has only ever been in it for the money. He doesn't have friends. That's what makes him such a good character. So Jaime's character has been built up a lot over the seasons. Many would say he had a character arc. Jaime's character arc has not been destroyed by returning to the woman that he's loved literally all his life. Why did he return? Well, maybe he just doesn't want to see her die. Maybe he wants to try and save her. He wasn't necessarily going back to suddenly be evil and start killing people like many have suggested, which would have broken his character arc. Perhaps Jaime himself didn't even know why he was going back. Maybe he had no idea. And guess what? Characters not knowing the reasons for their own actions sometimes isn't bad writing. Sometimes people don't know the reasons for their own actions.
They draw this really long fucking sequence with a fucking horse. It's like, what?
So people are complaining about a 2-minute scene, literally like 120 second scene of Arya getting up and seeing a horse, and they're saying it's boring or something. Like, that reminds me of the time I saw someone complaining that the intro was too long. Oh, sick of this Game of Thrones intro. Why can't they just skip it? Why can't there be no intro and we just go straight into it? I mean, if there is any genuine criticism of this scene, I'm more than willing to hear it. But just saying that it's boring isn't really a genuine argument. It's just like, you could say anything's boring. You have to say why it's boring. This is a scene where two living beings have just been through utter devastation, and 90% of the people around them have died horrible deaths, and it's a genuine connection of, okay, Jesus, we got out of that, we just made it, I don't know what the hell we're going to do now, but let's get the hell out of here. The music was emotional, the cinematography was spot on, and it was just a genuinely touching scene and a brilliant end to the episode.
The Clegane Bowl. I mean, we get the Clegane Bowl, but here it's like the only part in the Clegane Bowl that sucked was when Mountain knocked his fucking helmet off and he looks like shit.
So the fight between the Clegane brothers, it's been built up to a lot. Everyone was rooting for that, and it's even been called the Clegane Bowl. I have no idea what that means. I thought it was like an American thing, but even British people are saying it. Clegane Bowl.
The Clegane Bowl.
But anyway, there've been lots of rumours and stuff about like what the Mountain would look like underneath his armour. Like, is it going to be really sick or something? So the complaint is that when the Mountain finally does take his helmet off, apparently it looks terrible underneath, and it's just basically the actor, but he's got, you know, brown skin with pus coming out of it, and it's all zombified. And it's just disappointing because, you know, what they could have done is had a Frankenstein's body of, like, you know, Robb Stark's head on Oberyn's body, with Khal Drogo's cock jiggling about out of it. And it's just like, why didn't they do that? That's a no-brainer. Why didn't they do it? Well, come on, I'm not going to answer that one.